We'll see a central bank digital currency in the U.S. You already have one in China and other countries. So I'd expect that to be part of what's discussed in D.C. in the next number of weeks.
What is the intersection, if any, between UBI and cryptocurrency?
I think the intersection is very significant because if you're trying to get buying power into people's hands, one tool to do so is the U.S. dollar, and I ran for president on making that case. But there's no reason why it necessarily needs to be in U.S. dollars as opposed to Bitcoin or some other asset class or currency. I mean, we have to start thinking bigger about the challenges that we're facing. I think you're going to see new currencies emerge from the public sector, where you can have municipalities and communities experimenting with local currencies that will help drive people to local small businesses and nonprofits that may not be getting the support that they need right now. Mark Cuban had a suggestion during the pandemic where he said we should send everyone cash cards that can only be used at locally owned small businesses, and the money expires in 2 weeks if you don't use it, because we're just trying to drive activity. So those are the kinds of things that cryptocurrencies very naturally enable that U.S. dollars don't. No one thinks about getting a U.S. dollar and it's going to expire, or it can only be used in one place and not another. But these are utilities that we should be experimenting with in different settings.
Give a type of money that can only be spent for a specific number of reasons. And some worry about that state control or whatever, but like in this particular narrow use case, you want to give checks to individuals to get the economy moving again.
Yeah.
So if you think of programmable money that expires if you don't spend it.
Yeah.
I think you have to understand the mechanics, the cause effect. It's a very basic thing. When you produce a larger deficit, you have to sell your bonds. You have to know who the buyers of the bonds are. If you don't have enough buyers of the bonds, you're going to have a buyer's strike, so they're going to sell off. And this is, I think what happened in the UK is a canary in the coal mine. That if you take what's happening in Europe as a whole, the level of interest rates relative to the level of the inflation rates, and the terrible choice that has to be made about if you raise interest rates, what does that mean to Italy's debt service payments? Who is going to make up that difference? There's just mechanics to this. So I think that we are in a situation generally where there's not coordination. You could take the monetary policy of Japan and it'd be totally different monetary policy. And so, but there's still a trade-off because the bonds are going to go down in value because they're not going to own them. Now the question is, do they go down in value because the currency goes down in value or because the bond price goes down in value? But one way or another, they're going to go down in value. And the interest rate now, with all of this debt and how it's been structured when all money was free and interest rates were low, now an interest rate that is high enough to deal with inflation and also high enough to provide an adequate return for the bond investor is too high of an interest rate for the debtor. So now we have that structural trade-off. And the dominoes are falling in a very, very classic way. For example, if you take high-yield investing, they were called high yield before they were, and therefore risky, before you had an interest rate change. Now you had the risk-free rate go up to 4%, and you have the credit spreads go up to 5%. Now they have a 9% interest rate. That won't work for those. So they are going to have, they're going to be the first ones to go, and you have this series of dynamics. That's the mechanics.
And the fall of the dominoes has started?
Yeah, you can see the fall of the dominoes starting. You could see it as like, who has the cash? How much cash do you have that are going to get you through? Are you going to have a year or 2 or 3, or don't you have the cash? So I can go on at length, but each of those dominoes, and the dominoes usually fall in the same kind of ways, and they're falling in the same kind of ways. Jamie mentioned they're 9 months. That's a reasonable time frame. If you take a look at the cash flows and you watch those things, that's what it looks like.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, we know Andrew Yang pushed universal basic income when he ran for president. Also told us how automation was going to take over. And we're seeing the NWO bring it to light. And we know in 2023 and 2024, Americans are going to be brought to their knees. We're going to see mass layoffs, and we're already seeing the Fed rate hikes crushing the economy. But what is the solution? Guys, we know the NWO caused the problem. Wait for the reaction and run in with the solution. And the solution is the robots, algorithms, and drones taking over the economy, paying each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. Sit at home and get universal basic income. But it's not going to be cash. Just like Andrew Yang stated, it's going to be airdrop. They have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, is gone. Telling them what, when, and how to buy. And we see in California, they're already testing. We see in Chicago, they're already testing. So there's several places that they're testing inside the United States. But we know they've been testing for years overseas. And it never worked. And guys, we know when it comes to utilities, they should be free. Lights, water, gas, things that the Most High gave you should be free of charge. We've already paid for the infrastructure. But we know when it comes to universal basic income, with the Fox video you're going to listen to, they played the Hegelian dialectic. And yes, some people definitely need the assistance. But we know the way you control people is through the economy. It's the invisible machine. If I'm not allowing you to get the proper education, if I'm not allowing you to make the proper money, of course I keep you enslaved. Guys, it's the oldest trick in the book. That's the reason why they have the money printer going on. And speaking of the money printer, we have Ray Dalio. Speaking of these higher interest rates, and then also, guys, all of this debt. And we see how it's hitting pensions. We know with these 0% interest rates, and they were able to get this money to pay for these pensions free of charge because we had 0% interest. Now, because there's interest, now there's no more free money. Now these pensions are taking a hit. And we see now we have Biden bailing it out. And while in America we have all these distractions, we see the emerging markets, China rising. America, the Babylon, along with the United States world reserve currency, is going to be losing its power over the next few years. And we're going to see the rise of the new world reserve currency, which is the digital yuan backed by that digital SDR. And guys, this would never work if it wasn't for the NWO bringing in the machines and then bringing in digital currencies. Even though the masses are asleep, in this current system, the slave still has control. If you stop working, this whole system shuts down. And that's the reason why the unions had so much power. But now that the robots, algorithms, and drones are coming in, the sheep, the slave, no longer has any more power. And by the time they wake up, the machine will be telling them what to do in the metaverse while they're getting downloaded. I know it sounds like a movie, but remember, your life is an illusion, and TV is your reality. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows, when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
California is now the first state to put guaranteed income in place. State lawmakers approving the $35 million program, which will hand out payments from $500 to $1,000 per month. And while California is handing out money to residents for doing nothing, data shows fewer people are filing for unemployment in states that cut the enhanced benefits. The 24 states that stopped offering the benefits experienced a 33% drop in new jobless claims compared to the 4% decline seen in states that didn't withdraw from the program. So, Joe, I'm going to go to you on this one. The universal basic income plans, that's getting increasingly popular. But what's different about these guaranteed incomes, unlike other government assistance where they have restrictions on how the money can be spent, the guaranteed income philosophy is that by just giving money without restrictions, that will help reduce poverty by decreasing stress. What are your thoughts on that?
And it de-incentivizes, I think that's a word, people to actually work, right? And I see it here in New Jersey. A friend of mine texted me just yesterday, and he said, you know, I'm seeing now in restaurants owners actually having to wait and bus tables because they can't fill jobs. And you were in New Jersey, northern part of New Jersey, Nicole. Have you seen more help wanted signs in your life than you're seeing this summer? I mean, you've got businesses that can't fill these positions because people are being paid to sit at home and watch Captain Kangaroo and not work. And meanwhile, the money has to come from somewhere. You can't just keep printing it. And basically, it's coming from people like us that are working, are derrieres off, and now we're getting taxed out the wazoo, and we're not really seeing the benefits of it. We're giving money to other people. So, look, I remember the Green New Deal. I'm old enough to remember this. It was 2019 when it was introduced, and there was literally a provision that said, quote, economic security for all who are unable and unwilling to work. I mean, imagine that. I don't have to work, and I still get paid. Wow, what a country. It's strictly socialism, and I don't like to use hyperbole like that, but that's what this is.
Well, first of all, I have two friends, local friends, who own restaurants, and they are both struggling to get people to come and work. So I absolutely have seen this firsthand. You know, so Leo, Joe makes a good point. I mean, you went to law school, I went to medical school. The one thing that doesn't come from guaranteed income are the skill sets for people to actually go out and get a job and climb that ladder. What do you think that the universal income will do? Will it actually push people towards getting gainful employment or push them away from it?
Let me think about that. Away from it. Let me be very clear, first of all. Joe is wrong. Joe's wrong about New Jersey. I live in the worst state in the union, California. Okay, we have it's horrible here. Last year, Dr. Nicole, I thought about leaving the state of California. It is horrific. Guaranteed income does what Joe Biden does the contrary to what Joe Biden said. Joe Biden said a job is dignity, respect. You give someone guaranteed income, they're not going to work. They're not going to have the incentive to even progress, to really enjoy the fruits of this great country. The question I learned in law school, why is this being done? We have the worst governor in the state being recalled. He's handing out free money all day, every day, and he's trying to save his job. This guaranteed income creates a larger welfare state in California. It's a bad idea. It doesn't motivate anyone to work, as you see in that survey. We're one of the states that continues to give federal employment benefits. We want people dependent on the government. That's the last thing a free society would want. Dependency on the government is horrible. Joe, you have no claim to the worst state. We have the worst state in California.
We have nice beaches. So.
All right. Well, it's called the Dirty Jersey for a reason. But so, Carly, you know, I will say that the one thing that I did see in this bill that I actually liked, first of all, it was based on a pilot program out of Santa Clara where they were trying to help children who were graduating from foster programs, who are aging out.
Exactly.
But mind you, that Santa Clara program was privately funded, so it was given by private donors, not taxpayer dollars. But that is what they're saying. They want to prioritize those who are graduating from foster care, but then it doesn't stop there. It continues on.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's why I'm not totally opposed to this California plan. And it's $35 million, which is a relatively small pool of money when you consider how large California is. And this money is allocated towards pregnant women and kids that are leaving the foster care system. And I think that those people actually, especially the foster care kids, they may need legitimate help because they don't have mom or dad there to help them out. So I think this plan would be perfect if they gave that pool of money to these people if they can prove that they're going to school or trying to get a job. There should be a string attached to this, because the goal should always be to get people off of government assistance. I think safety nets are fine, but only for a limited period of time. And if you are an able-bodied...
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York. From COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.